part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right, everybody. We took an extra week off, but we are back. Here we are. It is the latest edition of Up Next with Adam the Bull, part of Press Play Podcasting Network. Every few weeks we come on and we talk about what's going on in the world of television. Not that crap that's on the networks, but all the good stuff, all the streaming stuff, HBO, Showtime, Netflix, Amazon, Apple TV, on and on and on. Michael is here producing again. As always, good to have him back. And my guest this week, as you know, I always have people I'm friends with, not necessarily media members. I've had some fellow media members on. Not today. Today's guest is Jen, and she has been cutting my hair for 10 years.
Hello.
As maybe more than 10 years. I don't know. Maybe 11 years. I'm not sure how long it's been.
Better part of a decade, for sure.
She is the co-owner of the Emerald Room on Lakewood. That's correct, right? On Detroit Road, right where Detroit and Hilliard crisscross.
Yeah, it's like the western part of Lakewood. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, we there specialize in mostly short hair, taper cuts, men's haircuts. I cut your family though. Yeah, your wife.
That's true.
Is, yeah.
And you cut my son Aaron's hair since he's a little pipsqueak and now he's a big boy, and so and he'll be on in just a little bit. And Jen is a huge music fan, and so we've been picking top 5 lists that are appropriate for our guests. And so today's top 5 is the top 5 theme songs for TV shows. I had so many that I had to split it up into top 5 with lyrics and top 5 with just music. You did it too?
Yeah. I have some that I was like, oh, these are contenders, but can't pick 7 or 8. So
I know. I still, even with the 2 separate lists, I still had to cross out a bunch that I like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good songs, a lot of good music out there. And you're a huge music person. You go to concerts all the time and festivals. You just came back from what was that festival called that you went to?
It was called Electric Forest. It's in Michigan. It was like a 5-day camping festival with I think 6 or 8 stages maybe, and people from all over, bands from all over. It was I would recommend it. It was awesome.
That's cool. And I could never sleep outside for 5 days in a row. I don't know how you did it.
I didn't think I could either. Actually, after day 1 was the hardest. By day 3, it was like, I should go home. And then by day 5, I was like, okay, I live here now.
Yeah. I was getting, I realized I did not say your last name, and your last name is Reeves.
Yeah.
But I never use your last name. It just felt weird to say it. And I was like, well, I got to say your last name. Your full name is Jen Reeves.
Most people call me Jen Reeves. I feel like because I have a 1-syllable name. So it's just
really? They do?
Yeah, they do.
I didn't know that. Okay. I didn't know that.
Just Jen is fine too. Okay.
There you go. Well, I just call you Jen. So anyway, let's get right into it. Because the reason I wanted you to be on the show is because as I said, for years, like I moved to Cleveland in 2011, and I can't remember exactly when I started coming to you, because I tried, because I didn't know you obviously when I moved here. When you move to a new town, you got to find somebody to cut your hair. So I tried, I think you were maybe the 3rd or 4th person I went to. And the first few, I just didn't vibe with those people, and I didn't love the haircut or whatever it was. But it's also like a chemistry. You got to have a chemistry, I feel like, between you and the person that cuts your hair. And you were very likable the first time I met you. So I just kept going back forever. And so now so it's been maybe 10 or 11 years, but for years, we chat while you cut my hair, and often we talk about a lot of things, life and whatever, but we always talk about TV.
Yeah.
When you cut my hair. And because I keep my hair short, I come in to see you every, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it may be, for the most part. And so, all right. So there's so many shows we've talked about over the years. There's some things, I think there's a lot of shows we both like, but you also, you like a lot more documentaries than I do. You kind of like some darker shows at times than I do, but you have a very eclectic taste.
Yeah, I do. It's across the board.
Yeah, no doubt. So I want to there's so many shows I want to get into with you. Let's start with Ted Lasso, because you sent me a list of so many things, and Ted Lasso is done and it's been a few weeks, but I always love to get people's thoughts on it, because Ted Lasso the first season came out at a time when many of us most of us, if not everybody, was going through such a hard time. When that first came out, it was like the pandemic had just hit and everybody was in their homes and things were kind of ugly in the country. And it made everybody that watched it feel good. Do you feel like it kept that loving feeling, if you will, from beginning to end? And were you satisfied by the ending?
So I have to say, I
or
haven't
you've
seen
not seen it yet?
the ending.
Oh my gosh.
I was looking at my list. I'm like, wow, I really don't finish much, do I?
Yeah.
But I think I fell off a little bit, and I plan to finish it, but it started to get a little, just so wholesome that it was almost, I don't want to say
Too
predictable,
wholesome?
but it got a little cheesy. But what's funny about that show actually is, I mean, kind of heavy to start with, but so I think we started watching it, I don't know, maybe a year after it aired or something like that. And it was actually the night. So, my dad passed a couple years ago, like 2 years ago now. And it was that night that he passed it. We were all sitting around, and like no one in my family knew what to do or like how to like comfort. It was just beyond, time to try to somehow sleep. But and my uncle kept saying to put on the show. So he gives us his Apple login and whatever. And in the first episode of the show, I think it's Ted that gives somebody a little one of those little plastic army
Right.
dudes.
Yeah.
And that was my thing. He always gave us army dudes. We all have a million of them. We pass them out. It's kind of like somebody's looking over your shoulder for you.
Yeah. You got one of them
So
above by in front of your chair at the.
I do,
Yeah.
He's tiny too. So
Yeah.
they're always with me. And so the show made me feel good. I mean, it was just such a feel good show from the first moment I watched it. So I think no matter how it ends, I have to say overall, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's certainly been great. And it does it cheers you up. It can be a little cheesy at times, but it because like, are people really going to be that nice? But we want people to be that nice to each other. In a perfect world, we'd all be that nice to each other as Ted Lasso is to everybody, really.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Like in a stream, and there's, the love of her life, or maybe not, because I didn't watch the end, but I like how they kind of explore some dark themes too, because life isn't just all butterflies and roses, and it's nice to not be scared of that stuff. And I think that show did that really well.
Speaking of scary stuff or depressing stuff, post-apocalyptic shows are all the rage these days, right? We've seen so many of them.
Yeah.
And one of them was a mini series called Station 11. It came out like right as the pandemic hit, and I think a lot of people didn't watch it because, unlike a lot of the like most of the post-apocalyptic shows are about like zombies or like Walking Dead or the show on HBO, which the Last of Us. It's that type of stuff, or there's been a big war or whatever. But Station 11 is about a disease that wipes out, many people. I don't know if you ever know what percentage or whatever, but a lot of people, good percentage of
the majority.
Of people. And I feel like nobody watched it at first. And I watched it like just 6 months ago, maybe.
Me too.
Right.
Yeah,
and it's an intense, I mean, that's a very intense show. And there's some interesting surprises along the way.
Yeah, I thought so that was one where I stayed away from it at first, and then my brother, whose opinion I definitely respect and trust, especially when it comes to TV, and so he kept telling me to watch it, but I watched the first episode, which is actually nothing like the rest of the show. Just all of it just like so over the top, and so I checked out after that first episode, and then it took me a couple months, and I went back and watched it, and that is another one that I don't think I watched the last episode. What do you do with spoiler alerts on this show? Do you try to avoid them, or was it just kind of like?
Well, I mean, that show's been out a while, so I don't care. I on the newer shows, the shows that are going on currently, I try to be careful about giving out spoilers.
Okay.
But for a show like Station 11 that's been out for a while, no. If you haven't seen it by now, you're out of luck. Now, I'm curious on a much lighter note. It's funny, you watch the show Bupkis, and I started that show, And it's not a bad show. My problem is I just don't get Pete Davidson.
I think you told me that before. Yeah.
He does nothing for me. I know some people love him. He does nothing for me. I find him very irritating. I kind of want to punch him in the face every time I see him. I feel like a lot of people have that reaction. It's unfair. He's done nothing.
I get it. I mean, I have that. I don't feel that way about him, but of course, I have a handful. So that's another one that I just barely started, and I really started watching it because I heard about, I think Joe Pesci and after from Sopranos. It's like the sister or the mom.
Oh yeah, right. Plays his mom, Carmela Soprano. Yeah, right.
Yes. So I haven't gotten too far in that, but I don't know what it is about him. I feel like he seems to. I like actors and shows where people are kind of portraying themselves in maybe even exaggerated way. And I know he did that movie. I think it's King of Staten Island. I really liked, where it's about his life. But yeah, I guess I just really like him. So I'm going to, I guess, continue to watch. I've watched maybe episode 1. So
all right, so you are going to give it a shot.
I am, yeah.
All right, you got to let me know if I should go back and watch it, because I thought it was okay. I think I watched the first 2 episodes, but I love Joe Pesci and I love her. Can't think of her name. She played Carmela Soprano.
Yeah.
I'm just drawing a blank on her name right now, but Edie Falco, that's it.
Yes, yeah.
But he just, I feel like if there was anybody else in that not anybody else, but I just don't like him. But
that's allowed to. You can't really help it,
Yeah.
I mean, we all have people like that.
He's very popular, though. You started to tell me, I know you just started watching. This show's been very controversial. So the guy who created Euphoria, which is a show we both love, it's a great show on HBO. Very intense, very sexual, very explicitly sexual. He did this other show called The Idol. Now, it's getting bad reviews so far, and I haven't started watching it, but I know you have, and I'm curious, because we talked about it a little bit last time you cut my hair. It's got a lot of buzz. Johnny Depp's daughter is the star. It's also a very sexually explicit show. I think you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's even more explicit than Euphoria, which is hard to believe because that show is so sexual.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's more necessarily like explicit than Euphoria is.
Yeah.
I guess there's been like a little bit of nudity. They're definitely implying. Yeah. I think what most people's problem with it is essentially what they started the show with, trying to almost like a dark satire, to kind of poke light at Hollywood and fame and people taking advantage of people, and then it kind of becomes the thing it's trying to make fun of. And so I guess I am starting to see that there's something about it where you're like, there is something cringy, but it's also kind of easy to watch for some of those reasons too. It's like aesthetically, of course, she's really beautiful. I really like her. I've never seen her in anything else.
Yeah.
She's also an incredible actress. So unfortunately, I feel like everything that's being said about it takes away from that, because she so far has done an incredible job at playing someone who's coming back from an emotional breakdown, and being extremely famous on top of it.
So you think she's doing a good job? You think the show's worth watching?
I think she's doing an awesome job. I guess I honestly can't vouch for it yet. I think 6 episodes total. I think I'm on the 4th.
Right.
And I think it had maybe a twist ending. So I was trying to avoid articles about it. But it's also almost impossible to avoid because everybody kind of wants to talk crap about it.
I know. It's a very popular, it's got a lot of buzz, even though it's got bad reviews. There's a show on Apple TV. I don't know if I've seen it, called The Crowded Room. I may have mentioned it to you. I can't remember.
Yeah. I actually do want to watch that.
Yeah. And it's got bad reviews also, and I really like it. I mean, sometimes people get, I think there's sometimes when it comes to critics, there's a lot of groupthink on the show. Like one critic says it's too far over the top, and then everybody feels like they have to say that too. I don't know about Crowded Room. I don't know why it's got bad reviews. I'm enjoying the show. Maybe I haven't, it's not over yet. It's only one episode a week on Hulu, but
what is it like the writing, the content, or what's bad about it?
I don't know. I just saw the grade that it was like, 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I didn't read the reviews because I didn't want any spoilers, I didn't read the details to what they didn't like about it, but
confusing sometimes. I really don't know what their judgment criteria is, but
right. And plus sometimes critics they look at things differently than regular people do.
Yeah.
They're looking for things that we're not like. There are sometimes shows or movies that like the critics love, and I'm like, oh my! It's more with movies than TV shows. But I feel like often a lot of the movies up for Best Picture, I'm like, oh my god, that was so boring.
But boring, or just absolutely so dark that a couple days to come back from it for sure.
I remember. I know we do TV, but did you see the movie Licorice Pizza by any chance?
I loved that movie.
Oh, really? I couldn't get through it. 20 minutes in, I had to shut it off. I was so bored.
It's actually one of my favorite movies.
Wow. I might have to give it another try. Everybody loves it. I was like, what is this? This stinks.
It's one of those movies where I'm like, if you ask me what it was about, it's a coming of age, of course, but I couldn't really say, but I like the characters, and it just becomes, it's kind of a longer movie, I guess. So there's probably a lot more to it.
You're giving it the backing, so I might have to do that.
Yeah, it's at least very wholesome. It definitely makes you feel good. It's funny.
Right.
Bradley Cooper's pretty awesome in it. He's like Barbara Streisand's boyfriend. And,
really?
Yeah. There's a lot of people that do have cameos in there.
Now, one show that you have on the list here is called The Rehearsal. I can't even think of what that is. I don't remember that show. What is that?
I guess I want to say it's an obscure show. I feel like anyone that I told about it, I was like, you have to watch it.
Yeah.
You've really seen it yet. So a lot of times when I'm a pretty tough crowd on comedy, I feel like, a lot of it, if it's just like corny or if a laugh cue's coming,
right,
it kind of takes a bit for me. So I tend to go to Reddit and just kind of, look up, I don't know, people that have seen things that I like and go off their recommendations. That's how I found that show. And it's
What's it on?
So it's on HBO.
Okay.
And that's kind of part of what is wild about it, is that HBO even really backed a show like this, because a lot of it is it's almost like it is a social experiment, so I like Nathan, the main character, the host of the show, doesn't even really know what's going to unfold. And it's interesting if you try to look up like what's the rehearsal about, it's almost like, well, what is it about? It's a very hard thing to describe, and I think it's meant to make you question what's real, how much of it's real. So he had a show called Nathan For You. It was on for a couple of years, where he would give struggling businesses, some mediocre or absurd advice. So that's one of my favorite shows ever. That makes me laugh really hard.
Oh.
But you question at first. At first, I was like, I think I hate this guy. He's almost, there's really nothing charming about him. But then, he plays to that and he acknowledges that. And
all right.
So
the rehearsal.
The rehearsal is essentially a social experiment where he'll put out an ad on Craigslist of, is anyone struggling to tell a big truth that you've been hiding for years, right? And then he'll recreate this scene down to every detail of maybe the bar you plan to admit the story in, to an absurd extreme, and rehearse it over and over and over the person, which of course kind of shows us that, you can't plan for these things. You can't plan for huge things. And the show definitely takes a turn after the first, it's like 6 episodes. The first 3 are like a couple different people. And then it becomes this experiment that he's now completely involved in, taking part of. So it's definitely very unique.
Yeah.
And I would say it's become one of my favorite shows for sure. Makes you think. It's very layered, and it's some very dark humor.
Now, have you finished Shrinking?
No, I didn't. I've been watching it with Tom, actually. So I think we watched like 8 episodes in a night, though. It was very easy to watch.
Oh, you got to watch the last 2?
Okay, well, yeah.
But I think it's one of the funniest shows in a long time. I mean, he's just naturally funny.
Yeah.
I was thinking like he's funny, like Seth Rogen is funny, just everything he says. Although I didn't like that Seth Rogen show. Have you watched that? It's called
I have it on a list.
Him and Rose Byrne. What's shoot?
Like the party down?
No, that's another show. This is Platonic. It's called.
Yes.
And he's real funny, and I usually like her, but I don't think she's good in this. I don't like this. I think the story is boring, and I think she's not good. I think he's funny. I mean, he's just funny. Everything he says is kind of funny.
Almost, yeah.
Right, but I don't know. That was disappointing. But Shrinking is really funny, and the whole cast is great on that show.
Yes, I love the cast on that show. I'm blanking on the guy, the Jason Segel, the main guy.
Right, Jason. Yeah.
Same with him. He's just kind of like you can tell that's probably mostly what he's like to be around, just like Seth Rogen.
It seems that way, yeah.
And at least, he's good at making it seem that way.
All right, we're gonna blow off the fan questions because there were no creative ones this week, but we did get it. I mean, I'm not blowing them off, but Tony Robinson asked us, "Do you watch?" I guess I'm not blowing them off because I'm answering, but there's no long creative ones, so I'm not going to make this its own segment. I'm going to just keep it as part of this segment. Okay. Tony asked us, "Did you watch Barry? Have you watched Barry? Did you watch that show?" I stopped watching it.
I did. I watched. Yeah. I got through a couple seasons, and not because I didn't like it. I think it was just it's one of those shows I had to go back and remember a lot. So I just haven't taken that on yet, but he's another comedian that I absolutely love. So I watched half of Barry.
Yeah, I thought the first season was good, and then I just kind of got tired of it. I'm not a huge fan of his in general. I love Henry Winkler, who plays a small role in it. I found the main girl, annoying.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like honestly with music, if I don't like the voice or the pace, I'm never going to get to the lyrics.
Yeah,
so
that's true. We were also asked about The Bear by Chase, who runs the Press Play Pods. He asked us about The Bear, and I've stopped watching it mid-second season. I'm just not loving it.
The first season. I'm feeling very here on this podcast, but I have finished a few shows.
Yeah.
I really like him, Jeremy Allen White.
Yeah.
I did watch probably half the show, and the pace makes you almost kind of anxious, and which I'm sure that worked in that industry is exactly what they're relating to.
Yeah.
And I was almost kind of like, I had big expectations. I had heard so much about it. So I was almost like, okay, what actually happens in the show? That's not exactly what it's about. It is more about the pace or kind of like that Uncut Gem. It's like.
Right, which was weird. It's funny because you say Uncut Gems, because like when I was done with Uncut Gems, I was like, did I love that movie or did I hate it? I wasn't sure. Like, I kind of felt the same way about The Bear. And the second season, I was so sick of this, like, they're working at this little sausage shop, and now they're making these fancy schmancy. I don't know. Anyway, I was getting annoyed by the chef snobbiness. I just kind of had enough. You mentioned the comedy, and I know you like stand-up comedy. You mentioned you recently saw Neil Brennan, who I haven't seen. Amy Schumer. It's funny because Amy Schumer, I'm like hot and cold on. I like some of her stuff, and then I kind of in and out. I've gotten into Jim Gaffigan lately. I never liked him, but he's really grown on me, and I like Nate Bargatze. He's my favorite right now.
Yeah, he's pretty likable. I feel like all around. Yeah, he's easy to watch. Like you said, I think even somebody younger could kind of watch and get away with it.
Yeah.
So Amy Schumer, I watched her most recent stand-up, and stand-up's pretty new for me. I feel like, again, I wouldn't really give it a chance because I'm very impatient, and if it's like first money, I'm out of here. But obviously, that's not fair. So I went to Reddit again and found some suggestions, which is where I found the Nate Brennan blog special, and Amy Schumer. I feel like she's got a lot of good like one-liners. If I see her in a quick clip of something, it usually makes me laugh. But the whole thing overall, it was okay. I like her, a human, I guess, so she's easier to watch.
I was very disappointed. I think we talked about this. Chris Rock's last special, I thought was terrible. I was really disappointed. He's one of my favorite comedians, but I thought his last special sucked.
Yeah, I think I watched probably the first quarter or half of that one. He's one of those where for me the tone of something is really important. I typically, watch TV right before bed. If something's like shouting at me, seemingly I typically just can't really get into it. I can't get past that part. And with him, the voice, I mean, it was just so, I don't know, felt
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, my son Aaron comes in for the kids report. We'll talk about Marvel's latest show, Secret Invasion, which he and I are watching, and we both love it so far. But we'll get his take on that, and then we'll after that we'll wrap it up by doing the top 5 TV show theme songs. 2 different lists: one for theme songs with lyrics, and one for just music. That's all coming up. This is Up Next with Adam the Bull.
Welcome, everyone, to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I am your host, Damon Royster, and I am inviting you to listen and subscribe to this Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. On Podcast 616, we gather some of today's greatest comedians, writers, and actors to dive deep into all things Marvel, like comic book history and lore, all the interconnected superhero storylines, and of course, who's hot and who's not in the MCU. Honestly, why aren't you listening right now? You have the power to listen to Podcast 616. And as we always say, with great power comes even greater responsibility. Listen and subscribe to Podcast 616 wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us, and then listen in.
All right, welcome back. It's Up Next with Adam the Bull. Jen Reeves is my co-host / guest today. Been talking all kinds of TV shows, but now it's time for the kids report. We bring in a young man who is my son and who gets his hair cut also by Jen at the Emerald Room. Again, I'm in Lakewood. He's been getting his hair cut by her as long as he can remember, right?
Yeah.
Jen, give you a good haircut, Aaron?
Yes, very good.
And she puts on TV for you when you want.
True. That's nice.
And shows he sure does.
That's right. Exactly. So it's a good tie-in here. All right, Aaron. So we got to talk about Secret Invasion. It's the latest Marvel show starring Samuel L. Jackson, bringing back his role of Nick Fury. We delayed the start of this podcast so we could watch the 3rd episode tonight. Because by the time we got home, we needed an extra 15 minutes to finish the episode because we wanted to be up to date, and we talked about it tonight. So we're three episodes in, Aaron. How do you feel about the show so far and how it stacks up against the other Marvel shows we've seen?
Well, I picked 3 shows to compare it to. Moon Knight, Hawkeye, and Loki.
Okay.
So compared to Moon Knight, I'm going to go with Secret Invasion because I love the plot of Moon Knight, but overall, Secret Invasion has been easier to understand. Moon Knight was very confusing, and there were more things added along the way, and there were lots of confusing things.
Okay.
But this has been pretty straightforward overall.
That makes sense.
There have been a couple things that we haven't understood, like certain things that we've discovered, but we can understand pretty easily.
Okay. I get you. Moon Knight was confusing, yes.
Yeah. Now, compared to Hawkeye, I'm going to go with Hawkeye. Cool. I love the plot of Hawkeye. It was very interesting, and he's also my favorite Avenger. One of the interesting things about Hawkeye is it had Kingpin, which is not only a bad guy from Daredevil, which I want to see, but it's also a bad guy from the original Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but that's a movie, so we can't talk about that.
That's true. All right, and then you compared it to Loki. How does it compare to Loki?
Compared to Loki, I'm going to go with Loki again. I love how Loki ties into Quantumania a little bit, Ant-Man Quantumania. And overall, it's just a great show.
Now, do you feel like this show is different than the other Marvel shows, or do you think it's similar to any of the ones you mentioned or any of the others? Or is it unique?
It's sort of like its own show. I feel it is like that. But if it didn't have Nick Fury and Maria Hill and War Machine in it, it would definitely seem like a completely different show, like Moon Knight seemed like it was.
Okay. And who is your favorite character so far through 3 episodes of Secret Invasion?
I'm gonna go with Talos. I
Okay.
find the actor I find him very good, and it's just how he plays his role is very interesting. His role in the storyline is
Mhm.
really interesting. I love his accent too. It's really
Mm.
good.
Can you do an
And
impression of his accent?
it's hard to do an impression of his exact voice, but I
Yeah.
can do his like the accent he has.
Go ahead.
I'll do it for Harry Potter. I'm Harry Potter. Welcome to Hogwarts. Better, but
It's pretty good.
That was good. Okay. So are you expecting any cameos from any of the Avengers on this show?
cameos?
Besides like are you expecting an appearance from any? We've seen one Avenger on this show. Are you expecting to see any others?
I feel like if any of them are gonna be on here, I feel like
Yeah.
they might tie this into Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel
Mm-hmm.
because of all the main, like the Avengers sort of people. Captain Marvel is the most connected to the Skrulls.
Okay. And if you were going to recommend one Marvel TV show to Jen, which one would you pick?
Oh, that is so hard. I'm gonna go with Loki.
Loki. Is that a good place to start for someone who's never seen anything Avengers?
I think which one was the first Marvel TV show?
I think it was Scarlet.
Yeah, Scarlet and Vision.
Yeah, WandaVision, right?
Not
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch and WandaVision.
WandaVision, right? Yeah.
Not Scarlet Vision.
It's tough. No, Loki would not be a good place to start, Jen, but it is a really fun
It's
show.
a very good show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron. Good job with the kids report, buddy. We'll talk to you next podcast.
All right, see you.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
There he is. All right, quick break, and then we'll wrap it up with the top 5 TV show theme songs with lyrics and without. That's next. It's Up Next with Adam the Bull. All right, welcome back. It's Up Next with Adam the Bull. Jen Reeves from the Emerald Room in Lakewood. If you're a man and you need your hair cut, she is the place to go. Well, her place is the place to go. She's one of the 2 co-owners. And although you're always busy, it's not like you have a lot of room for that many new clients, do you? Are you taking new clients right now?
Yeah, it's open. You could book. It's just finding a spot, which, honestly, it's here and there, definitely. Yeah. Anyone with short hair. Short hair.
Short hair, yeah. I mean, most guys have short hair.
Well, you'd be surprised too, because obviously we don't turn him away, but I have a lot of guys with longer hair and bowl cuts these days. I don't know what's going on there.
Oh, really? Well, the teenagers these days, they're all like, they got mops on their heads, all of them.
They got mops with like a bald fade on the sides, so it's like this extreme, just a ton of hair on top of the sides. I'm ready for that one to pass, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm hoping my son does not want to do that, but right now I still have enough control over his hair. But
right, still pay for the haircuts.
Yeah. All right, it's time for our top 5 list, Jen. We're doing 2 top 5 lists today. They're both the same category. Basically, it's top 5 TV theme songs, but there's so many good ones. We split it up into top 5 with lyrics and top 5 without lyrics. So let's start. What do you want to go first? Lyrics or non-lyrics? Would you?
Let's go with non-lyrics first.
All right, non-lyrics first. 5 to 1. Why don't you give your list first?
Do the whole thing backwards? Okay.
Yeah.
Top 5 instrumental theme TV shows.
Yeah. Give me one at a time, starting with 5, and this way I'll throw in some comments. Go ahead. Number 5.
So number 5, I put White Lotus, season 1 specifically. Do you remember that theme song?
I can't. It's not coming to me right now.
Yeah, it's very like primal and jungle sounding. It's almost like monkeys going up.
Oh my God, you're right. That's a bad miss by me. I left White Lotus off. I like both seasons, but
yeah.
The music in that show creates a lot of the intensity too. It's the whole soundtrack, if you will. It's all, just music, but it's really good on that show. Yeah. I forgot about that one.
this list, I started by trying to think of shows where I don't like run for the remote to like change the annoying intro song.
Right.
So that sticks out for that reason.
Okay, that's a good one. I like give you a thumbs up on that, but I left it out. Number 4.
Number 4, Westworld. Did you watch Westworld?
I watched the first season and then I stopped watching it.
That's all you really needed to watch.
Yeah.
That one I had. That show's music is amazing overall. He actually, same guy that did Game of Thrones. 3, oh, I got this other one. 3, I did Stranger Things.
Well, that's a good one too that I left out also. Man, you have some better ones than I did. I like your list better than mine.
Yeah, I don't know what that is like, if it's like synth pop or it's obviously very, very 80s, but very recognizable and yeah, I don't hate it overall, which a lot of theme songs are just, they're kind of annoying.
Awful. Exactly.
Yeah. Number 2, Mad Men.
Okay. I never got into that show. No, everybody loves it, but
it is a very slow show. Worth it once you get it. But so that was he's actually a DJ producer, RJD2 that did that theme song. And number 1, I put the X-Files.
That's another good one. Yeah. That's a great list.
It's short, I mean, like the theme song is short, but I've heard some of the ringtone of it before, and I don't know, it's just that whistle's creepy and comforting.
That's an incredible list. I don't have any of those, but they're all great, and some of them I didn't think of. Some of them are shows I didn't watch, but I actually don't know the Mad Men one, but the rest of them are all excellent choices, and I'm a little angry with myself that I left off Stranger Things and White Lotus. Yeah, those are bad misses by me. But all right, I'll give you mine. I don't think my list is as good. Number 5 is Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I don't think you watched that show, do you? I can't remember.
No, that's a Larry David show.
Yeah, and it's really short, but it's just kind of iconic to me. The way it just comes on, it's like, oh my! Now the show's starting, and it gets you pumped up to watch the show. Yep. Number 4 is one that everybody knows because everybody's watched this show at one point. It's actually. Believe it or not, 3 network shows on my list because they're older shows. But number 4 is still around, I think, or maybe it's not. I don't know. Law and Order.
Oh my gosh! Yes, I can hear it sound as soon as you said that.
Exactly.
I think it is. It's like a soap opera. Yep. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Number 3 is also in the same vein as Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's Seinfeld. When it's just like a lot of popping sounds. It's kind of a weird.
I actually don't know it because I never watched Seinfeld, so I couldn't picture this out.
Yeah, no.
It's the laugh cue.
Number 2, you referenced number 2 in your list, but you didn't pick it, and that's Game of Thrones.
Yes. And so making these lists, honestly, it was hard to be. Am I being biased because I like the show better, or is that song actually better? So I
think liking the show affects your.
Yeah.
I think to some degree.
Yeah, because some of these are sentimental for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And number 1 for me is a show way back, but well before you were born, well before Michael was born. It was one of the first cop shows on TV called Hill Street Blues.
Oh,
it was. I loved that theme song. It was like da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Anyway, anybody over the age of like 45 knows. Everybody watched Hill Street Blues. It was actually, the show NYPD Blue. Did you know that show?
Yep.
One of the characters from Hill Street Blues was one of the main characters in NYPD Blue. So that NYPD Blue was kind of a spin-off of Hill Street Blues.
Really? My mom, of that show.
Yeah, I guarantee you, Mom, tell her the theme song from Hill Street Blues. She'll be like, oh, yeah, that was great. Everybody loved it.
Yeah.
I had to leave off. There was some other good ones I left off. But anyway, all right, let's get now to the top 5 with lyrics. Top 5 with lyrics. All right, you start us off again.
Okay, so number 5, this is one of those ones that's just, a time and a place in life. Dawson's Creek, which was...
Never watched that show. Yeah.
The show was not great, not recommendable.
Right.
But the theme song was like that Paula Cole, I Don't Want to Wait.
Oh, yeah, it's a good song.
Yeah, this song, I mean, it's just, yes, I love that song. So that's number 5.
Okay.
Number 4 is Peaky Blinders.
Oh, you love that show.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Which you haven't watched any of that, right?
No, I watched the first episode. I haven't got. Maybe one of these days. I feel like I need to because you've
Yeah,
told me about it. So I know it's your favorite show.
it's thoroughly a good
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I think Nick Cave. So that show does a lot of it's like modern music when the show's really set in, the early
Right.
1900s.
Yeah.
I like that. Number 3 is Euphoria.
No, that's a good one. Yeah.
Number 2 is Big Little Lies.
I don't know that. I mean, I know the show, but I don't know the theme song.
Yeah. So that's an artist, I think his name's Michael. I want to say he's from Hawaii, Michael Kiwanaka. Um, and so from that show, actually, I was like, who is this artist? And I absolutely explored his whole catalog.
Oh, really? Does he write other theme songs, or does he have like?
No, I think he's almost, I think, maybe like a neo soul, kind of like a new old soul. You hear him and think, is this a really old song, or is this a new artist?
Right.
So no, I think it's just he is a musician that wrote a theme song.
Okay. And number 1.
Number 1 is The Wonder Years.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Joe Cocker. So
Yeah.
I didn't watch the show, but of course it's so wholesome.
Those are all good choices. You did great lists. My top 5 is also I like my top 5 here. Number 5 for me is Cheers. Were you ever Cheers watcher?
Yeah, I had one of my boyfriends a long time ago. He was like unemployed for a couple months trying to find a job, and I would come home working every day of my life. Cheers was playing, so it's almost like I can't even judge objectively.
No. I can understand that. Yeah, I can understand that. All right, number 4. I go way back in time with this one, The Jeffersons.
The Jeffersons, yeah.
Do you remember that show? I mean, you probably saw it, maybe saw it in reruns.
I loved The Jeffersons. I can't think of the theme song though, but I assume it's very space-like.
By the way, no, you're thinking of the Jetsons. This is the Jeffersons was a spinoff actually of All in the Family, because the Jeffersons had been on the Jeffersons were a couple on All in the Family, and then they got their own show, and it also featured the first interracial couple in television history.
Really?
That show, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the theme song went. I'll see if I can remember it. Well, we're moving on up to the east side and on up. We finally. I don't remember the rest of it, but it was a really catchy tune. Good song.
Yeah, that's a good one. Right.
This is an old one too. Number 3, The Greatest American Hero. Now this could have been number 1. The top 3 for me. This was. I don't even know how long this show was on. It was a very cheesy 80s show. It wasn't a very good show.
Was it like a reality show? Or?
No. It was about a guy who became a superhero, but it was so awful.
Yeah,
it was awful. But you got it when you're done. Play the theme song. Like, look at what's happened to me. I can't believe it myself. Suddenly I'm up on top of the world. It should have been somebody else.
I'm so
not. I mean, that's an old school tune right there.
Yeah, there. What was the last show called again?
The Greatest American Hero.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch the show, but I'd listen to the theme song. Number 2, The Sopranos.
Yes, I that one is. I have it on like my reserves list where I'm like, I don't even know if I can like take credit for it because I haven't watched the whole show.
Well, you don't have to watch the whole show. It's just. Fits that show. That song fits that show so well.
Yeah, I looked it up because I knew that I recalled like liking the intro, but I looked it up and then it felt like cheating, so I left it out. But it absolutely deserves to be on my list.
All right. By the way, a couple of others that were honorable mention: The Wire, Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island, and the Dukes of Hazzard. Which I hated that show, but the song was good. Number 1, WKRP in Cincinnati. Have you ever heard of that show?
Oh, what is it?
Baby, did you ever wonder whatever became of me? I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, Cincinnati, WKRP. It's about a radio station in Cincinnati, a music radio station in Cincinnati. And, since I always loved radio, wanted to be in radio, I loved the show. It was a good show for its time. It was a network sitcom in the, I don't know, maybe the early 80s, maybe even the late 70s. But it was a good show for its time. Probably now it doesn't hold up, but the theme song, I can't even remember the name of the artist, but I was listening to like Yacht Rock Radio on Sirius XM recently, and the song came on there, and I went nuts.
Really? I never even heard of it.
No, you got to listen to that one. You got to listen to the Greatest American Hero on WKRP in Cincinnati. I mean, maybe you'll find them cheesy because they're old, and I just, it's just good memories for me.
I'll entertain it.
Well, Jen, great stuff. I appreciate you coming on. I'll see you in a few weeks for my next haircut. Everybody go see Jen at the Emerald Room. Check out her website. What is the website?
The emeraldroomsalon.com.
emeraldroomsalon.com. Conveniently located in beautiful Lakewood, Ohio. It's a great location. It's a great place. It's parking in the back. So free parking in the back.
That means a lot, actually, in Lakewood.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of it's very hard to find parking in Lakewood that's free.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Unless it's like, I mean, on the side streets you can, but it's not a side street. It's a main street.
Right.
Anyway, thank you for joining me.
Thanks
Michael,
for having me.
It was a pleasure to have you. Michael, thank you for producing. I'll be back in a few weeks. My guest next time will be the producer of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show that I'm on, Mikey McNuggets, or Mike Lucas. He will join us in about 3 weeks. Until then, we'll talk to you next time. It's Up Next with Adam the Bull. See you, everybody.